Hi guys, so today I'm going to be sharing something that's very fundamental to the growth of any animal farm, and that is feed. Today I'm going to be concentrating on poultry, but generally if you're dealing with animals you're going to face this. Currently I'm trying to grow a goat farm. I wouldn't say start, I'll say grow, because I have about 70 animals already, both goats and sheep combined. So it's really growing, but for me to go beyond my current cap, which is 70 animals, I need to make sure that I am dealing with the feed for these animals. Now, if you're doing piggery, you're going to be faced with the same exact thing because the animals also do need feed. If you're feeding cattle, same exact thing. You're going to have to get feed for them. But today we're going to be paying attention to poultry because you're going to have to pick this information and you can utilize the same information in all these different aspects. Now, when it comes to farming, feed is such a fundamental and important thing because it accounts for such a very high percentage of your cost for running the farm. For me, for example, right here on the poultry farm, today I'm on the farm, the percentage of the cost usually varies between something between 70 and like 85%. Sometimes even up to 90% can be feed cost in terms of running the farm. So if it's that critical and that important, then you need to pay a lot of attention for it because it can determine whether you succeed and whether you fail. In fact, for me specifically, when I started my farm, one of the things that played such a huge role, or one of the things that I had to figure out first, was the feeding. Because I tried to read about all these other things, but when it did come to the feed, I had read up a little bit. So I remember this random day, I had gone to this area where I was buying like poultry equipment, and then they told me that they sell poultry feed too. So I was like, oh, cool. So I decided to start buying my poultry feed from there. And I mean, this is some place which is really, really far from where I am. It's like over 200 kilometers from where I am. At that time, I didn't know any better. And for me, I thought those are like the only guys who sell poultry feed. Or maybe there's others, but like, this seemed legit, So what I was doing is that I was buying a premix. I would call it a premix or a concentrate. I think it was like, well, you'd call it a concentrate, So I needed to add like some soya cake, if I do remember well. I needed to add like soya cake, sunflower cake, even cotton cake in that feed, then maize and maize bran and things like that. And I remember my flock didn't perform well at all. It totally didn't perform well. I didn't know the core foundations of what it means to make feed. And started laying late. It started laying in about the 22nd week. And then after that, the percentages went up really, really slowly. And then I remember some random day, I was really, really frustrated. I mean, I was really frustrated. I was like, what am I going to do? And then I have an auntie who came by to visit. She had come to visit my dad. And my farm was like at my dad's place. So, I mean, she really came to visit me. And she had been doing poultry before. And she advised me to switch from that to some other feed. This was now a concentrate. I was moving from like more of like a premix type of thing to like a proper concentrate. And when I switched over in like a week, my production increased. Now, my cost of the feed actually went up, but my production like jumped like super, super high. Now, I don't remember percentages in terms of production because at that time I was very naive to anything called percentages, but at least I remember the absolute increase in the egg laying, because my chickens were laying about 15 trays a day and they jumped to like 22 trays in like 3 days. I was like, what? This is crazy, And I can guarantee you that my feed costs didn't jump up by that much. Now, what's the point I'm trying to drive to? The point I'm trying to drive to is that you must know exactly and absolutely what you're dealing with. A lot of times, I've seen this with a lot of farmers because trust me, because of who I am and the kinds of people that I deal with, the kinds of people who reach out to me, I have dealt with a lot of poultry farmers and I have seen farms close because the farmers are trying to save on poultry feed. I have seen it happen. Now, there's also farms that close because the farmers are too generous with poultry feed. I'll give you a quick example. When it does come to layers, it's very uncommon to find like big layer farmers buying 100% commercially mixed feed because it's very expensive, very, very expensive, Now, you'll find some farmers do that, like small scale farmers, people who have like, 50, 100 chickens. You'll find them do that, but the bigger ones, very unlikely. Also, the main reason is that I mean, it's quite expensive for someone who is doing 50 or 100 chickens to have to buy individual raw materials and mix the feed themselves, because you're going to have to transport these raw materials from different areas, and so your cost of the raw materials now becomes high because of the transportation. So it makes it quite difficult for you. Also, sometimes you have to buy them in bulk in order to bring the price down. So it makes it difficult for you. But those farmers who buy 100% mixed feed usually really struggle. I have seen it, really struggle. And if you try to become a big farmer and do that, I mean, it's going to be very difficult for you to survive because your competition is doing the exact opposite. Your competition is keeping their cost of feed as low as possible. Yeah, so it's going to be very difficult. But then you'll see a lot of farmers trying to save on feed. And what happens when they try to save on feed? If they are raising broilers, their broilers are not going to meet the market weight or the target in terms of weight for the market at the time that they expected to meet it. And so the person will be waiting to sell their broilers at 5 weeks, and then at 5 weeks they're not selling any broilers, and then they start taking their cost, and they start figuring out whatever the problem is, and then the people who are going to come and buy the broilers from you, they're not going to give you the price that you want. The very funny thing with people who buy broilers is this: when they come and find your chickens and your chickens are below the target weight, they want to give you very little money. That's if they give you money. When they come and find your chickens and your chickens are above the target weight, they still want to give you the price for the target weight. That's quite crazy, but again, in the end, everyone wants to benefit. Yeah. So that's why I also always advise broiler farmers. I mean, if this is your target weight, sell your birds at the target weight. Don't wait to get them bigger, because you're going to spend more money on your feed, and these guys are not going to appreciate the extra effort you're putting in to sell them at higher weights. But yeah, that is it. Yeah, sell them at that weight. So then, if your broilers don't get to the target weight, you're going to get into proper problems because you're not going to get the money that you think that you actually do deserve. Very important. Yeah. So same exact thing for me. What happened is that at this point my production went up. So I then moved from having cheaper feed, which I completely had no idea about mixing and formulating and something like that, and then moved on to the concentrates. And the concentrates made it a bit easier for me. Now the concentrates, I've said again, were more expensive, but at least they gave me better production. They gave me better laying. And that is one thing that I always advise people who are starting out. If you're starting out and you know nothing completely about what to do, if you can get a proper company that you can trust that sells concentrates and you trust their mixing ratios, then go with them. They're going to be expensive, but at least they're going to guarantee that you get what you're supposed to get. For me, I managed to get my birds to lay properly, and at that point the farm finally managed to break even. Yeah, I started getting a little bit, just a little bit of profit from the farm, and the farm managed to break even. Yeah, I wasn't in losses, and so that managed to keep me going. And I can guarantee you that if I hadn't done that, if that auntie hadn't visited me and given me that idea, most probably I would have closed at some point. Yeah, because the farm would just have been too stressing. I would have just failed to figure out how to get the birds to start to lay properly. Yeah, but I figured it out. Now fast forward, I continued growing, because at that point, guys, I had 750 birds. Now fast forward, I moved on to 1,000 birds, then 2,000 birds, then 4,000 birds, then 5,000 birds. I'm still using a concentrate. Yeah. Now this is where I believe I lapsed, because I think I should have realized this much earlier. Probably at the point of 5,000 or 4,000, I should have realized this much earlier. But it was until I got to 10,000 birds that I noticed that, whoa, I think I should be saving a little bit more on my feed cost. Yeah, I think I need to be saving more. So what I did at that point is that I would call it another concentrate, but it's more like a premix. Yeah, it's like a 50% concentrate. What that means is that in every ton of feed, you're going to put only 50 kilos of that. It's almost like a premix. It's not really a premix, but almost like a premix. Yeah. So I decided to switch over onto it. So I first did my math in terms of calculations. And when I did the math, the difference in terms of the feed cost for me was like day and night. Because when I did the calculation with the 10,000 birds that I had and I was feeding, when I switched over the feed, I was immediately going to be saving $2,000 extra every month. Can you imagine, guys? $2,000 extra. So that means that if I had done this earlier, I would have been able to save. I managed to get this formula and play around with the formulas using my system, my Farmup system, to come to the best production in terms of how much of the soya cake do I put there, how much sunflower. Because the percentages or the figures that the company were giving me, they were okay, but I thought they could do better. Yeah, for me to do a proper balance between the cost of the feed and the quality of the feed in terms of the production. So I balanced them out my way, and when I did balance them out my way, I managed to get to like this really good production. Yeah, because currently, I mean, I have flocks that give me 95, 96, even 97s, sometimes even up to 99%. Yeah, because I have managed to figure out how to utilize the feed, how to mix the feed to ensure that I have great results for me on the farm. So this is something that I finally managed to do, but I feel like I did it so late. If I had figured it out earlier, I would have saved myself a lot of problems. Yeah, and also in addition to that, I would have grown much faster, because imagine what $2,000 every month could do for you. Like, I'm just looking at myself right now. Yeah, if I had to spend $2,000 extra every month right now, it changes everything. Yeah, because I've gotten so used to the kind of cash flow that I'm having at the farm right here. So when I moved on, because I had become more of an expert and I knew exactly what to do, I knew where to source my raw materials from, I knew where to source the sunflower cake, the soya cake, all these other things that I'm personally using into the feed, I managed to optimize the productivity of my farm to get great results. So now a lot of people actually ask me and they're like, but doctor, you have a lot of land, why don't you grow your own maize? Yeah, and yeah, it's true, I do have a lot of land. Now on the breeder farm, there is a lot of land. Yeah, but where this farm is, it's quite far away from the breeder farm. It's like 300 kilometers or so away from the breeder farm. So growing maize there and then transporting it up to here would first of all be quite expensive. That's number one. But also the maize that's grown there is really just for the breeder farm. Now this side, I don't have a lot of land. I have about 20 something or so acres, and I'm using the bulk of that right now. First of all, I'm using it to raise goats, but I'm also going to be using the biggest chunk of it later on to grow like grasses that can be utilized as feeds for the goats. Yeah, so it's not like the perfect kind of place for me to grow maize. Yeah, and so what I personally do currently is that I try to buy the raw materials when the prices are low and utilize them when the prices are high. Currently, my feed consumption on the farm is quite high, guys. Over a ton of feed every day. Yeah, maybe 1,200, 1,300 kilos, I don't remember. Yeah, but it's quite an amount. So what that means is that I need to source a lot of raw materials every month from different areas. Yeah, and some of the things that I'm going to be paying attention to currently are things like getting silos. That is one thing I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to, because I want to get to the point where I can store as much of my feed as possible for myself, especially when the prices of the maize drop. I want to be able to utilize the silos to store the grain for me. Sunflower cake, soya cake, some of those I buy and store in the farm, but in the end it is because I've figured out how to formulate the feed myself. That's very key, very important, yeah? And it's going to play a huge role in you succeeding. Guys, if you can't figure out how to bring the cost of the feed down, it's going to be very, very, very difficult for you, yeah? And now, a lot of you people also actually ask me that, hey, Dr. Daniel, why don't you share with us, how to formulate your own feed? Guys, I remember there's a time I once made a video on this YouTube channel about how to formulate feed, and most people in the comment section, like I could tell from the comment section that it was too complicated. Like it just didn't make sense to a lot of people, because I was, trying to, explain formulas like squares and things like that. And I mean, it was just too complicated. So what I decided to do is that I decided to do this inside the Farmup Academy. Now, if you don't know what the Farmup Academy is, it is an online platform where I train farmers from all around the world how to start and grow their own thriving poultry farms. And in there, I actually share in great detail how to formulate your own feed. It becomes really easy. I literally teach you how to formulate your own feed based on raw materials that are available to you in your area. Yeah, you just find out the raw materials that are available to you, and then you figure out how to formulate, your own feed in that area. So if you're that kind of person, and you want to learn how to formulate your own feed, or you just want to learn how to start a farm and grow and have a thriving farm without risking losses, then come on, the Farmup Academy is the thing for you. So I've left a link in the description of this video where you can literally just directly apply, because to join the Farmup Academy, it's through application. So you use the link in the description to apply to join the Farmup Academy, and hopefully I'll see you there. Catch you very soon with another video. Lots of love. Bye-bye.